Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark, in the hot seat today is Trevor Rajaratnam, the President of the Travel Agents Association of Sri Lanka, to provide his perspective on Sri Lanka's travel sector, in particular the aviation industry. Then we have an update on the stock market from LMD columnist Hasta Premratna. And Shehan Senanayaka, Trainee Associate of Frontier Research, wraps up the show with some insights into the fintech space and how mobile money is affecting brick and mortar banks. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Hello and welcome to the Big Picture Business Program Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Tourism numbers grew by 15% in the first half of 2018, according to the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, which is good news for both the travel industry as well as the aviation industry. So how are these two industries actually handling the increasing numbers that are visiting these shores? To shed some light on this and several other issues, we have with us today Trevor Rajaratnam, the President of the Travel Agents Association of Sri Lanka. Welcome, Trevor. Good to have you on our show.
Hi.
When you look at Sri Lanka's travel and aviation industry, how would you assess it?
Well, travel and aviation covers a fair gamut of things. If we talk about inbound, and then there's the outbound aspect to it. On the inbound side, yes, tourism is increasing and growing, and the market that has grown is actually the Chinese tourists that's coming into the country, but India still remains at number one. Previously, the UK were number two, but China has overtaken. So, which is good for tourism, and year on year it's been growing. So it augurs well. But actually the Chinese tourists also do spend. They spend particularly on gems and jewelry, and they buy a lot of tea and things like that. So they actually spend more than some of the European tourists too. So it augurs well for the country, but there are a bit of frustration in that area. We lack Chinese interpreters in the country, and that's going to be a concern. And one of the other concerns for the Chinese tourists is they smoke a lot, the Chinese people, and the inability to bring their cigarettes for their personal consumption is a bit of a frustration to them, and it's also a bit of a deterrent. So although people are not taking cognizance of it, it matters to them.
Now, the SLTDA says that 15.3% increase has been seen in tourism arrivals. How has this growth in tourism actually impacted the local industry?
Well, the local industry, I think every player in the local industry benefits when tourism increases in the country. You go right down to the vendors, the people who grow vegetables, the fishermen who goes fishing, the transport agents, lorry drivers, the car drivers, even the trishaw drivers, even the little shops and what they call the Sillera Kade around the road or whatever, all of them benefit. So when tourism, it's not only the 5-star hotels and the upmarket restaurants, right down the line, there is a whole cycle of people who benefit from tourism. And that is why it's so important also that our people are clued up to that, and really, as a nation, that they always say we are smiling people and we help, but there are also a little segment of people who tarnish the image of Sri Lanka, and we should nurse it well, because everyone benefits from it.
So Trevor, in your opinion, do you see potential for development in the domestic travel sector?
Well, the domestic travel sector, if we are talking about movement of people within Sri Lanka, yes, it is important. Right now, yes, our roads out of Colombo are pretty decent, but they are narrow. So the highways that are being projected to be built will definitely help reduce travel time. Otherwise, you take from here to the East Coast takes a good 7 hours or whatever. And so there is room for domestic aviation, which will actually not only the tourists that come into the country, even our local domestic tourism will also increase, and the hotels will benefit. But the pricing is very important. So if they don't source out the correct type of aircraft that is not too costly, and they can keep the prices at a reasonable level, getting flights on a daily basis that we go to some of these places to the north and the east and the south and all that, it definitely help our tourism as a whole, not only international but the domestic tourists too.
So besides domestic aviation, what other opportunities do you see for growth in the sector?
When a tourist comes, or even take people in the country, in terms of entertainment and things to do, it's almost zero. I mean, you just cast aside the restaurants that are available, and yes, we have a choice of restaurants, particularly in Colombo. But apart from that, there's not much for people to do. Just yesterday, I think I read in the papers that they were planning to reclaim sea from Mount Lavinia going up to Kolpiti or something, and then they're going to build like a beach marina kind of thing, and that really excited me. That's the kind of thing we want. I mean, you take in terms of entertainment, even our cinemas, movies, sometimes you get the latest movie, most times not. And you take theatre or things for people to do. There is nothing much for people to do. And that is important. And it should not be just centered only in Colombo. When some of the key cities out of Colombo, people need to be able to do things in the evening.
So we are seeing an increasing number of arrivals coming in. So how can Sri Lanka expand its aviation industry's capacity to cater to this increasing demand, do you think?
Yeah, because the increase in tourism augurs well for airlines that are operating to increase their number of flights into the country, but it's very seasonal also. I mean, you take right now the period of July, August, everything is at peak, it's at capacity. You can't get a seat at a reasonable price if somebody wants to fly out of Colombo right now, because of the reason that happens is the inbound load that comes. Because a lot of the airlines that fly into Sri Lanka and fly to work is that they have capacity in inbound, because our outbound, our Sri Lankans cannot fill up all the aircrafts and all the flights that come in. So the growth in tourism is so important, where we don't have too many charter flights coming in either. So with the year-on-year growth in tourism, the airlines will be only more happy to come in here, and we need, and few more airlines to come in, particularly if you take going towards Europe or whatever. We actually do not have any European airline flying into Sri Lanka except KLM that comes in seasonal.
Now, there have been reports, Trevor, that Sri Lanka and India are in dialogue to have a joint venture to operate the Mahinda Rajapaksa International Airport. Do you think this will be somewhat of a panacea for what you're looking at?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky question. I mean, that airport, I've been there, it's good, it's got everything great about it. But yeah, it's up to our inbound operators also to see how, because you can start your tourist activities maybe originating from there, because even people coming to Katunayaka, some of them just go on their round trips from the airport itself, or first night in Negombo and then continue. Some of them come to Colombo for one night. So if there's a will, there's a way, and then everyone needs to get together and make use of it instead of that being a white elephant.
Lots of issues to discuss. We'll be back after the commercial break, Trevor. So we have some messages from our sponsors. Now, when we return, we ask Trevor about the impact of the currency fluctuations on the travel sector and how the adoption of technology has impacted the industry. Do stay with us.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
$8,500 done. 1,500 go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
You're with Benchmark, and we're discussing the travel and aviation sector with the President of the Travel Agents Association of Sri Lanka, Trevor Rajaratnam. Trevor, there have been recent developments in the airline sector which have impacted the aviation industry. The last flights operating out of MRIA were cancelled. Sri Lanka's national carrier is under various investigation. How is all this impacting the aviation industry and the travel industry as a whole?
Well, the national carrier in any country gives leadership to the aviation industry. So currently, we're just hoping that things will be restructured with the new board at Sri Lankan Airlines, that they would be able to bring something to the table that will help our airline expand. But for them to do all of these things, all the losses that have accrued over the years should be written off. I mean, it's easier said than done, but they should be able to give an opportunity to start with a clean slate. They should be given the freedom to make choices, how to keep costs down and things like that. And because Sri Lankan Airlines, I mean, in the days gone by, gave more than 50% of capacity out of the country. So now with our reduced operations into Europe, I mean, we fly only into London. Lot of dependency on India, and we got flying to a lot of destinations in India and in the near region. So, I mean, if you look at it, people in the globe, they are flying more and more. So there is no reason why Sri Lankan Airlines needs to be at a loss. And if they are given the freedom to operate on their own.
You mentioned that more and more people are flying everywhere around the globe. Now, recently, the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue, Ivan Dissanayake, reportedly stated that most Sri Lankans who travel abroad are taxable parties. Now, do you think taxes on traveling abroad, how much of an impact would that have on the customers and the industry?
Well, I mean, Mr. Ivan Dissanayake has his reasons, and I mean, like, one of the reasons that they are looking at taxing people is the government also needs revenues coming in. And we as a nation, I suppose, need to understand and help them through these difficult times. But that doesn't mean that everybody who is traveling has some hidden income or revenues or some money stored under their bed or whatever. I mean, I've been in travel for 45 years, and I'm going back to the time when you couldn't even buy a yard ticket with your monies. You depended on somebody sending you, making payment for your ticket from overseas. You were allowed only £3.10 as exchange. Turn the clock forward, and 30-40 years later, what we call a middle class people or a lower middle class people, all of them travel today. By and large, our country also can prosper, that our people are getting exposed to how other countries function and operate and things like that. He has his reasons for it, but as long as it's something reasonable. But that doesn't mean they should go hounding people.
The Sri Lankan rupee has been depreciating drastically due to the dollar strengthening on the back of a strong US economy. What is the impact that currency fluctuations have on the industry?
It does have an impact in the sense, you take the inward, the tourism side, and the outward tourism side too. So like the airlines that fly into the country, when they have to remit back, they tend to lose when it fluctuates to this extent. And also on the inbound side, the people who pay early, and then the currency have fluctuated, and if the trend is going up or down, there are people who incur losses due to this. So a stable currency is obviously going to be good for the country.
So if you look at both the travel and aviation industries, what is your outlook for these for the rest of the year?
I envisage growth. We take outbound travel and the air ticketing side of the business, year on year there is growth. And despite whatever people complain, cost of living and all of those things, people are still, it has not deterred anyone. And similarly on the travel is a passion for people. A lot of people enjoy traveling, and I can see a lot of the young people wanting to travel, explore new countries. I'm just talking in terms of Sri Lankans wanting to travel, and a lot of them want to go now to new territory, Eastern Europe, and all of those kind of things that people didn't go to earlier. And similarly, people in all parts of the world want to travel. They're looking for new destinations. Sri Lanka is scoring there. We are up there with an interesting place. So infrastructurally, if we do the little things that need to be done here, tourism can only just keep booming here.
I just hope, with your optimism, that the industries fly high.
It will be.
Thank you very much for joining us, Trevor. So we've been discussing the travel and aviation industry with the President of the Travel Agents Association of Sri Lanka, Trevor Rajaratnam. On the other side, we have Anushan Selvaraja.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Done. 1,500 to go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now for a closer look at the latest on the bourse. Joining me is market analyst and LNB columnist Hasitha Premaratna. Welcome back to the show, Hasida. Now, the market has dropped like to an almost a near 17-month low. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think overall market condition in has been dull, where the activity levels have also dropped. Not only the indexes dropped, due to two reasons. One is the global reasons. Globally, all the markets are suffering. Obviously, we saw a lot of uncertainty around how the U.S.-China trade war spans out. In the meantime, there were other countries which were also coming into the party. So broadly, we've seen the global uncertainty connecting and having an impact towards the overall market behavior across the world. But in the meantime, also the emerging markets have been having an added burden because US dollar interest rates have been going up. The LIBOR has been going up. The Fed rates have been increased. So with that increase, obviously some money is flowing out of the emerging markets to more to US side. So that has also had an impact, unfortunately, to the emerging markets as a whole, where Sri Lanka has been obviously a victim. So that's one side to the story. Other side to the story is where we've seen the Sri Lankan economy and the political uncertainty having a negative impact, obviously, with different dimensions coming into decision making in different areas. We've seen a lot of negatives being passed on, and as a result, the political uncertainty has contributed negatively to the market. Parallelly, what we've also seen is that the economic growth slowing down to some extent in the last few quarters.
Now there is talk of going into the RMB or yen bonds now. What is your opinion on this?
I think when you look at it from a US dollar perspective, the dollar has been appreciating quite sharply, which against most of the global currencies in the recent past, and then with China and also Japan to some extent having their own markets to work on, the renminbi is becoming increasingly popular because obviously Chinese want to have less foreign currency exposure, especially at a time when the US dollar and the renminbi is in a battle around the trade war that's being currently spoken about. So there'll be more money that will be available in renminbi form to invest. The Chinese money, which can be attracted if you go for the RMB bond. So I think that's not a bad place to be. And compared to the dollar, I think broadly when you look at the stability of the renminbi, that's more stable than the dollar when you look at the fluctuation. So in that context, you might be able to do some work, but only issue that you will find is that you don't have bilateral trade, like you don't earn so much of renminbi as a country, because today we don't export enough to China. So unless otherwise that number is increased, which can't happen in the short term, it will take time, there will always be that negative deficit where our inflow of renminbi versus the outflow of renminbi will be very different. And when you go to repay the debt, you should have a pickup in the renminbi to have a balance to avoid any significant impacts due to renminbi potentials of renminbi fluctuations. And if you can create that bridge, I think that's something that everybody can work towards, because if you can create a natural hedge by having more inflows, outflows, or inflows coming to the country in renminbi form, which then can be offset against the outflows.
Finally, Hasida, now the market is down, yes, but a lot of people say that this is the best time for our investors, our local investors, to go in and grab shares at bargain prices now. But is this actually happening?
I think it's not happening from a retail perspective. Some of the foreign investors are still in it. If you look at the foreign participation in the reduced volume levels in the market today, we are almost talking about 50% foreign participation still, both buy and sell. So there are foreigners who are capitalizing and sort of converting, but in the meantime there is new money coming in as well. So I think when you look at it from a foreigner's perspective, they are bargain hunters. They know when the fundamentals are attractive, when to get in. And our market today, if you look at the 6,000 points level, which is hovering around, it's trading under 10 times PE on historical, which is about 9.3 times, which is a very, very attractive valuation compared to most global markets. So in that light, chances are that the foreign interest will continue in the market, though it may not be at the same level or the same pace that it used to be in the last maybe 12 to 18 months. Having said that, the local participation is weak, and we all know that the local investors generally come to the party when the party is almost either midway or it's over, right? So that's not good. But I always believe that we should gradually accumulate fundamentally sound counters whenever they are at attractive price levels, and we today see attractive price valuations in most of those counters.
Thank you very much for joining us, Hasida.
Thank you.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasita Premratna. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
When we entered the industry in 1995, a new star was born as a fully owned subsidiary of People's Bank. For those seeking to grow their businesses, PLC provided the seed. We are not only Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company, but also the largest non-banking financial institution. Welcome to a new dawn for the nation. Introducing People's Leasing and Finance, PLC.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Sri Lanka's #1 leasing company is now the nation's largest and highest rated finance company with 2 international ratings. Let us move the nation as one with People's Leasing and Finance PLC.
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushin Selvaraja. Now we're going to take a look at mobile money and its proliferation through Sri Lanka. And to shed some light on this, joining me from Frontier Research is Shehan Serenaika. Welcome to the show, Shehan. Now, just to start off with, just give us a brief overview of what mobile money and mobile transactions are really.
Alright, so mobile money is basically a technology which allows you to store, receive and send money using your mobile phone. So basically the requirements for this would be you have to stay in an area where you have mobile network signals, and also you should have a smartphone or a feature phone, or even you can use it using a USSD codes. So that's a specialty of mobile money when compared to other fintech services that we see, because it focuses on the base of the economic pyramid. So the global status of it when it comes to mobile money currently, since 2012, it has been rapidly advancing, and right now it processes around $1 billion of average transactions per day. Apart from that, it has around 700 million subscribers. Also, what we can see is that there are around 250 deployments of mobile money around the world.
So how is it spread through Sri Lanka?
Yes, so when it comes to Sri Lanka, when you compare to other fintech services, we've been kind of slow when it comes to the adoption. Like even if you take blockchain or crowdfunding platforms. But when it comes to mobile money, if you take in terms of the value of mobile money transactions as a percentage of, say, Sri Lankan GDP, we are in line with the South Asian levels and the global levels. We are just falling behind the African levels because they are the epicenter of mobile money anyhow. But even when it comes to the consumer, the amount of subscribers as a percentage of the population, we are in line with the global and South Asian levels. So we've definitely been ahead of adoption.
But then Shehan, what sort of impact has this had on the traditional brick and mortar style of banking?
So currently mobile money was initially, the objective was to focus on the unbanked and the underbanked. So right now the way that we see it, since there is a opportunity cost of interest that you lose when you put your money in mobile money. And so when you compare with the convenience levels in Sri Lanka right now, the people would still go towards earning an interest for the money. So I don't think it will have an impact on the savings accounts as at yet. But then assuming the number of merchants increase, what we could see into the future is that people will start moving out their current account balances into mobile money. And apart from that, also what I think is if there are products by the telcos which will give interest on the balances, that might have an impact on the savings accounts as well. Also, so what we can see is because of the peer-to-peer transfers that are happening, because there will be a very little charge on the peer-to-peer transfers, there will be a loss in the fee-based income for the banks and also for the other traditional financial institutions who are involved in the payments and settlement systems.
Thank you very much for joining us, Shehan.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
That was Shehan Sernaik of Frontier Research. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.